Let's take a journey through the history. Microsoft began developing Windows in October 1985 with the goal of creating a user-friendly operating system that was much easier to use than existing systems like MS-DOS. Early versions of Windows were not commercially successful because they offered limited functionality compared to MS-DOS and were criticized for their poor performance. However, in 1990, Windows 3.0 was released and included support for virtual memory and other improvements that made it more appealing to users. Windows 95 was a major milestone in the history of the OS. It introduced a new user interface that featured a start menu and taskbar, as well as support for long file names and other features that made it more user-friendly. Windows 95 was also the first version of Windows to become the dominant desktop operating system, capturing around 75% of the market by 1997. However, as the OS became more popular, it also became more vulnerable to security threats and viruses. In response, Microsoft began developing a new version of Windows that would address these issues. Windows 2000 was released in February 2000 and was designed to be more stable and secure than previous versions. It was widely used in business and government settings, but was not as popular among home users due to its higher cost and steeper learning curve. In October 2001, Microsoft released Windows XP, which combined the stability of Windows 2000 with the ease of use of Windows 95. Windows XP was a massive success and became the most widely used version of Windows in history, with over 400 million copies sold. However, as the OS became older, it became increasingly slow and sluggish, prompting many users to upgrade to the newly released Windows Vista in 2007. Despite its initial popularity, Vista's high system requirements and poor performance led to a sharp decline in usage. In 2009, Microsoft released Windows 7, which addressed many of the shortcomings of Vista and became very popular among both home and business users. Windows 8 was released in 2012 and featured a new start screen and tiles interface that was designed to make the OS more touch-friendly. However, this interface was not well received by critics or users and was widely seen as a failed attempt to make Windows more like a tablet OS. In 2015, Microsoft released Windows 10, which featured a redesigned start menu and an updated settings area that was intended to make the OS easier to navigate. Windows 10 was generally well received by critics and is currently the most widely used version of Windows. And finally, we have Windows 11, which was released in 2021 and is the latest version of Windows. It features a redesigned start menu and taskbar that is intended to make the OS more visually appealing and easier to use. So that was a very brief history of Windows. We just covered the main milestones, and there are a lot more to cover. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more updates.